Today on the Catch Up podcast, I'm joined by James Brentley.
We had a choice. You go for money,
Yeah,
or you go for values. And we chose values.
Yeah.
The best thing that we have in business is relationship.
absolutely.
And relationship is not AI.
Nope.
So I'll tell you now, we're on the start of the AI bubble. The best thing that we can do is be the very, very best people that we can be. Always give the very, very best you've got. And when that customer really needs help, be exceptional.
He talks us through his early career, his entry point into the world of Microsoft Dynamics, and right up to current day where he's running and leading the business at AgileCadence. James, thanks so much for joining me today. Absolute pleasure to have you on, and genuinely appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day. I know you've got a lot on at the moment, so yeah, I really do appreciate you taking some time to chat with me today. What I always like to do, and I can see obviously in the background you've got your company logo in the background, and I'd love to sort of talk more and understand in more detail about the business that you've built and developed there at AgileCadence. But what I always like to start to do with all of my guests is sort of go on a little bit of a journey into sort of, how you end up where you have today, the journey that you've gone on. And if you wouldn't mind just sort of, I guess, very much starting from the beginning, James, when did you first sort of get into the world of IT and technology? Was it straight out of university? What was early career like for James Brentley? And if you could take us on a little bit of a journey in those early days, if that would be okay.
It's a bit of a funny story, actually, because I didn't come from a technology background at all. My friend said to me at the time, says, you really need to go and do something more with your life. So I said, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. So he got a prospectus out for university.
Yeah.
And said, where do you want to go? I was like, well, I like nightclubs.
It's a good start.
Great. Well, how about Sheffield? There's a really good nightclub called Gatecrasher in Sheffield.
Yeah, I've been. A friend of mine was the radio DJ there many years ago at Sheffield Hallam.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. There you go. I also got engaged in there at one point in my life. So I went to university there, and I actually went to do computing science because one of my good friends at the time said, prospectus, go to Sheffield, computers, they've got a future.
Sure.
So I thought, I'll do that. So that's when my career in IT started. And honestly, on day one at university, I didn't even know how to switch the computer on. But that's okay, because on day two I did, and on day three I was building web pages, and it was brilliant. Yeah. It was like one of the best things that I'd ever done. Isn't it amazing what you can create from nothing and instantly? I mean, this was back in the day when it was flat web pages, and you were amazed if you had an animated GIF in front of you. Yeah. But it was still amazing. And then that gradually progressed through to coding websites and making them active. Flash was amazing back in the day. You could build really cool websites. And then it got to my degree, and in the degree I had to write a dissertation, which I don't know about you, but I don't really like working for other people. I quite like working for myself. So all my friends were working in bars and doing bits and pieces, and I thought there's got to be a better way. How about, so I write my degree on how to set up a company. So I set up a web design company with my friends, and we started trading. Wow. And that was the start of business number one, sort of sole trader type thing. And we built websites, and I wrote my dissertation on that, got a 2-1. Brilliant. Fantastic, earned some money, and still got to go to the pub on the right side of the bar, which was fantastic. So that was the early days. And then leaving university, tried setting up a business with my friend and doing web design again. Sure. And then we fell foul because what we learned was that we actually had to sell stuff. Because at university it was easy because you had contacts and they just wanted to give you work because you didn't really charge very much. And then you suddenly wanted to charge real money, and actually that's not going to work very well. So it didn't. And I pretty much gave up. My friend went to work for HSBC and has been architecting their mobile app, their business mobile app for some time now. So he's been running that. And for me, I went off and worked for eBecs. Wow. So early days, number 5 or 6 in the door at eBecs. Yeah, wow. Chesterfield, tiny little office with Kevin Hall and the crew. So that's
a good group.
As people watching will know, because there was Matt and there was some other people, and you'll all know these names if you're in the industry. But that's where it all started back, and it was Barn. back in
Yeah,
those
it was,
days.
yeah.
So we're not talking D365 or Axapta or anything. We're talking
No, because that
barn.
was eBecs' first
Uh,
sort of product point, wasn't it? It was barn. It was the man, because it was strong in manufacturing, barn, wasn't it? In terms of the manufacturing industry, it was well aligned in the manufacturing sector. And it was when I was looking at your profile earlier, James, I looked at the fact that you went to Sheffield Hallam, because I then remember, did eBecs, because I always remember, because I did a lot of recruitment for eBecs many years ago, and we always used to look for people that had come from, I think, the similar course that you'd done at Sheffield Hallam, because they liked taking people, because I guess geographically it worked well, Sheffield, Chesterfield, and people coming out of there had a good technology grounding and a skill set. And obviously you were one of those, I guess, sort of first founding people that sort of, I guess, sort of paved the way for others that went on that same journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started with eBecs, is studying web design. So we built some of the first e-commerce sites for some of the companies in Sheffield.
Yeah.
I still remember a poster site, and I was amazed because I'd managed to create something in Dreamweaver at the time, and it was just this amazing time of innovation, which now
Yeah.
is awful. But back
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
everything was new. Everything was new, and I came to a crossroads where there was a choice: do I carry on with web design? Or do I go and do support for this thing
Yeah.
called Axapta?
Sure.
And I decided at that point, web design I love, but if I can do it, so can everyone else. So that's probably not got a future. It's got a future,
Yeah.
but it's going to be everyone can do it kind of future.
Absolutely.
So let's go and do this thing that I've never ever heard about. And when I talk to people, they have no clue what it is, because that means it's niche.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was in 2001, 2002.
Wow.
So it's early, very early.
Absolutely. And then in terms of that early stage of career, you go to eBecs. That's your first touch point in terms of when we're talking about the world that we kind of live and we operate in today, which is the Microsoft ecosystem, the Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem. Your first, I guess, touch point there, because as you say, sort of eBecs, they were very much, I guess, from an industry perspective, they were very focused probably in and around the manufacturing sector. They developed lean manufacturing within Dynamics. But can you remember those early days when you saw, because obviously it was Axapta initially, and then Microsoft acquired what was DamGuard Axapta in version 3, I believe it was. Can you remember those sort of early points and what your role was with the product in those early days? So were you more technically sort of focused with the product, functionally focused, or did you kind of get a bit of, because I think back then people used to do a little bit more of everything, whereas nowadays, as the product's evolved to the size and scale that it is at an enterprise level, back in the day, one person could go in and, in some senses, sort of say, I can do everything. It's quite different now. So yeah, I'd love to hear just a little bit about your kind of grounding with the product and I guess the skills that you had at that point.
It's pretty simple. I was terrible at the application. If you push me towards finance or manufacturing, I could tell a good game, but I wasn't very good. But I loved this thing called the AOT. It was a wow, right, what can I do with this thing? And actually it was the problem that most people had at the time, because you pop it open, I can do anything here. In fact, why don't I strip it all down and just build my own thing? Because you could. Obviously, we now know that that's not a good idea, but back in the day, this is a great system. It's an open system. So I got really involved in working on the support desk, and then we were running a project called eAlerts back in the day that got picked up quite well over in America. So that had me over to the US working. I mean, this is a young kid who's just really only just getting into work.
Amazing.
And I end up in the US working on some great projects and programming some stuff that no one had ever seen before. This little modem, like a GSM modem that you could just you could send alerts out the computer and it would send it to your phone. So you could play Snake and you could get something on your phone about the system.
Wow.
It was all like really amazing stuff, but it was that breakthrough where playing Snake on your phone was the best game you had. So it's not like it was an amazing thing. It was just a breakthrough moment. From working on that, I just really got the feel for it, and I loved working on these projects. yeah, I guess that's where it went from, just this inquisitive nature into what could be done.
And then how did your role evolve over your time with eBecs? You sort of developed much more as you sort of described there, much more into the sort of the technical aspect of the product. Is that fair to say that's where your sort of natural sort of leaning took you, that down that sort of, I guess we call it sort of technical architecture type route, sort of?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess this is a podcast, so lots of people are going to have a look at this. It's worth me also mentioning what happened on that
Yeah,
way
it would be
through,
great.
which is a kind of a personal thing, which is I worked for eBecs, and then we were working so hard with a few of the guys that we were working. It wasn't 24 hours a
A
day,
lot.
but
Yeah.
we drank a lot of Red Bull. And it actually got to a point where I kind of cracked. So I'd spent such a long time there that I don't know if you call it a breakdown, but I certainly needed to get out of the industry for a bit. So I went back and I worked in the outdoor industry for a couple of years because that's what I'd originally trained in at college. I just needed to prove that the grass was greener somewhere else.
Sure.
Turns out it's not. It is literally greener, but it's not. There's no money, and actually, I'd rather go and have fun doing that than do it for a job.
Absolutely.
So I turned back to IT. eBecs took me back in again.
Yeah.
But this time I was coming back in with, not only did I know the grass isn't actually greener, this is actually quite a good industry to work in. Although it's a hard industry, but it's a good industry to work
in.
And realizing that actually, if I could make my money in tech, then I could go and spend my money in the mountains.
Absolutely.
So instead of working in the mountains, having no money.
Well, it's a bit like you said early on in the career, being on the right side of the bar.
Exactly the same. Yeah. And actually that'll probably come up time and time again because it's just learning. It's learning how to work. What's the cheat code for life? What's the cheat code for work? What's the cheat code for business? And I'm constantly trying to work out that cheat code. And that's kind of how I work, I suppose. So I came back, worked in technology, and just really got into it this time. Like nothing's holding me back. I'm living it. If someone says, do you want to do something, stick your hand up straight away.
Absolutely.
Never, ever, ever be the second person to put their hand up. Always put your hand up first.
Yeah.
And that's, how it went until eventually eBecs got pretty big. They built their own building in Chesterfield, started doing really well for themselves. It was amazing. Later on in life, I would realize that they showed me a blueprint,
Absolutely,
which is like we're in today, but like blueprint that they showed me there with Kevin and the team was, it can be done just because you've got grit and determination. Just get on and do it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, my early days taught me what I needed to know 10 years later, probably.
And it's sometimes, isn't it, in life, it's timing, it's right environment, it's right place, because as you say, you can go down various different routes in life. But that point with eBecs and going on them with that journey, that kind of grounding that it gave you, seeing that business, because it did go on exponential growth. At the time, when the time that you're talking about, in my mind, they were probably the largest Microsoft Dynamics Axapta partner in the UK, maybe even sort of globally. They had a presence that others didn't have in certain regions, and they were maybe one of the true sort of first partners that had a real kind of presence in the US, in the UK. They had touch points with partners across Europe, which allowed them then to kind of sort of truly try and offer a global solution for customers, which at the time it didn't. It was much more localization partners, wasn't it? A partner would use a partner in the US, and then they would come to the UK and they'd have to find their partner in the UK, and vice versa across different locations. So, I think everyone was learning then about the product, because the product was developing at such a rate as well that everyone that was involved in it, I remember going from version 3 to 4 to 2009. And then at what point did you then move on, James, when you kind of went from eBecs? Because eBecs, I'm assuming, was a permanent role. So you were in a permanent role with eBecs. Did you then step into another permanent role? Did you move into the world of contracting? What was the journey at that point in which way you kind of took that next step beyond eBecs?
Well, the next step was another perm role, and that was in Sheffield working for Tribal Group. So Tribal now have their own practice. Well, they had the practice at the time, that's why I went there. But they're an educational software business, and they saw the opportunity to get into Dynamics. They were just building a team at the time, and I happened to see that, and so left eBecs, went over to Tribal, and this was the moment where put your hand up moment came. But we started going over to the tech conferences over in Seattle when Microsoft was absolutely brilliant for doing these things. They don't really do it anymore unless you're an MVP. But back in the day, a trip a year to Seattle, great place, love the city. And go and meet everyone, meet the people that are actually designing the products. So I was really enjoying that period of life. Tribal, putting some money into it. And then the guy that was leading up Tribal at the time left and went to do something else, which left the practice headless. So they said, can anyone help? Does anyone know anyone? I'm like, no. Says, well, does anyone want to do it? And everyone, no. I was like,
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Absolutely.
And so the first implementation was for the Isle of Man government. Well, that didn't go very well on AX 2012 because AX 2012 at the time was pre-release. So as you all know now about role-based security, well, the Isle of Man government's implementation, I was working with a guy that wrote the role-based security for Microsoft, and we were working on it at the time to try and get to work on dimensions and stuff. So the things that are in the product now were directly affected by that period of time. And, I mean, everyone can say that if you were around at that time, lean manufacturing, role-based security, there's stuff you're going to be involved in because the product was evolving at the time. But it was fun. It was also incredibly stressful.
You put yourself in those positions, but you learn through those moments, don't you, in life? When you're put under a little bit of duress, I always try and say it to, I say it to both my boys, I said to the people that work for me at Catch, but it's something that I always think rings true. But I always think good things come out of situations where you feel uncomfortable, get it. And I know people sort of use the phrase, get comfortable being uncomfortable. But, often if you challenge yourself, and this is out of work or within work, but challenge yourself to do something that feels a little bit uncomfortable. Normally when you get to the other side of that, you feel a sense of, I can do it. I have achieved that. And then you learn and your brain realizes that get used to doing those things and you push yourself a little bit more. And I think you feel a sense of satisfaction, within yourself for doing those things. So when you talk about, stepping up and doing those things at Tribal, it's, you step up, you push yourself, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think generally you always learn something along the way, at least.
I think so too. I mean, you just spoke about children, and that's one of the guiding pieces. You can either provide everything for the kids so they never have to try and do anything, and then they learn different things to maybe what you want them to learn. Or you provide opportunities to struggle a little in different areas, and that struggle creates growth. So I've always had my kids right from the early days, as if we go to a cafe or something, if you want something to eat, you need to order, because I'm trying to get rid of that glass ceiling or glass door or wall around you where you walk into a room and you feel anxious because it's a new place and it's people you don't know, and how am I going to talk to them? But if you learn it really early, that anxiety goes away. It's the same room, it's the same people, but the anxiety goes away.
Absolutely.
So the more you put yourself in hard situations, the more you learn and you level up over time.
Yeah, I love that when you said that to me. I've got two boys, one that will be 8 in May and another one who's 5. And I'm a member at a local golf club. I love golf. And I've been taking the boys up there since they were young. But, it's a place where adults are mainly socializing, and, older members will come and talk and introduce themselves. And I've always encouraged my boys, speak back, talk to people. If you want to go and order a drink, if you want to go and order some food, you go to the bar, you speak to the people, you ask for your own thing. And it rang very true to me when you were talking about that, because I think it builds such a level of confidence with them. And the world that we're moving in today, with technology and AI, I think one of the greatest attributes that any young person can have is their human skills, their personal skills, their communication skills, because that's something as humans that is unique to us, is dealing with other human beings.
I love the fact you said that, and hold that thought, because we're going to talk about that later on.
I'll loop back around, James. So you're at Tribal, you've kind of stepped into that kind of practice leadership kind of role, or taking that on. And I do remember them sort of, because were they trying to almost develop an ISV for the educational sector based on Dynamics, or were they just focusing on implementing the product to educational sector companies? I can't quite remember.
At the time I was there, they were thinking about doing that. But what we were more doing is trying to get business to actually pay for the practice.
Keep the lights on,
So the Isle of Man government was one of them. But as I say, that was a tricky project, and I'm glad I wasn't looking after the money for that one. And then there was Highlands and Islands Airports, which brought me to Scotland to work, which would therefore make me live in Scotland. So I came to Scotland to work on that one. It's a brilliant team, absolutely amazing. Developed something in AX, and then because of my old web skills with Flash, also developed the departures and arrivals boards, and had those running across all the airports all over Scotland on the island, all running from one central source. It never got deployed because it turns out you actually need to be a little bit careful with putting boards up when they've got paying passengers and the air traffic control towers. We went further forwards than we probably should have done, because the guys at Highlands and Islands were like, yeah, this is amazing. And then you got to get through the CAA and various things like that. So anyway, we got to do some amazing things. And actually, that was the time I got to do the one thing I said, you've absolutely made it, the day when you can do your job and you can sit on a beach and you can work while sat on a beach on your laptop.
Absolutely.
And I did that. The problem was it was on a really, really cold island on the North Sea of Scotland. Absolutely Baltic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But still
a gorgeous place to be. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love it up there. So then at the point in which where you took the next step, James, in life, you'd been at Tribal, I believe a couple of years you were there. And at that point, was that when you then moved to go independently? Was there a break in between? Did you go and do some independent contracting? What did life look like when you took that next kind of step in your career to kind of move on from Tribal?
So that was kind of Tribal decided to shut down the practice at that point. So that was my first idea of what redundancy looked like. Albeit I just brought in a big team and we were working. So I spoke to the guys at Tribal and said, we've done some good stuff here, and I understand why you have to shut it down, but before you do, let's get everyone trained up. So we went through a period of time of getting everyone trained, so once they left, they could move on, and every single person got a job. It was amazing. They all went to eBecs and all over the country, but there was no one out of work. So we managed to make sure that happened. And I was up in Scotland, so the options for me are not great, if I'm honest. So there was a First business up in Aberdeen.
I remember.
And then there was end users as well up in Aberdeen, such as ProServe. I interviewed both of those and was offered a job. What it was going to mean was I live in Perth, which is a couple of hours away from Aberdeen. I would really not be able to do that daily, so I'm going to have to go and live a bit closer, and decided at the end of it, great companies, would have loved working there, not great for family. Which then weirdly turned into something which is equally not great for family, but at least it was earning more money. So I then headed down to London. Let's go contracting. Let's give it a go. Let's set my own business up, go contracting. I've heard it's all right. And went to a company. I mean, I'll name a few companies through this. I'm sure they wouldn't mind, but went to work for Stemcor. I had a lot of people working at Stemcor. It was it's funny when I think back to that, and just the whole environment. I used to go up there quite a lot to meet the people there, but it was the Oppenheimer family? Yeah. And that is the start of the future. That is absolutely where things started to grow, because I was in London, amazing place, meeting some amazing people, developing on the top floor, pretty much on the penthouse in the city. It was an amazing experience.
Great fun.
It was great fun. There was a lot of pub time as well. It was all good fun. And I met some really good people, some of which I still work with today. And it was from then I started to meet up with different recruitment companies, and really started to get to know the business down in London. And there was this thing called DevOps. So it was inquisitive. No one else was doing it. Everyone said they couldn't really do it for AX. So that got me going. It's like, oh, brilliant. So you said it can't be done. That is exactly what if you want me to do something, tell me it can't be done.
Absolutely.
So that was it. So I started my career really as a one-man band, doing all the things that other people said were impossible to do, which was properly managing releases for Dynamics,
Yeah.
which took me to Dentsu Aegis.
Yeah. Another one. Yeah.
And that, if you're thinking about Stemcor being the start, that was me getting used to things.
Yeah.
Dentsu was really the start, because if you look at the companies that spawned off Dentsu,
wow.
it was absolutely amazing.
Well, and again, the people that were there, you know, when you talk about the team of people that, you know, I guess quite a few went from Stemcor onto Dentsu, but
Yeah,
from
they did,
like a functional and from a technical standpoint, both of those programs and projects had some of probably the best people that were in the market at the time, that are still operating in the market today, some of whom have set up their own businesses, similarly to yourself, James. And yeah, I mean, and that was probably at the time, I mean, Dentsu was unique in the just sense of the size and the scale of the program. I don't think anything much had been done with Dynamics at that level before.
No, it was the biggest implementation globally. I know a lot of people say that, right? But it genuinely was the biggest implementation of AX 2012 that had ever been tried.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he started off with 2012 and the R2, R3. Then it was even into the early versions of what we now know as 365.
Yeah.
Then it was. I still remember the image coming in on it was ring on my own laptop, because it wasn't even in the cloud at that point. It was just, this is D365 in an image.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's where we got to. And there was that's where I started to get very much into my contracting and got a few people I like to work with. And then, well, we don't really like to talk about, so I won't do, but there's a couple of letters with 35 afterwards that I started to think about, and I was like, oh, there must be a way for me to get around this problem, because I don't feel comfortable with it. I'll get a couple of guys with me and I'll just exchange it, and I'm all good. So that's what I did, and it went well. I was like, oh, but if I could do that, then why don't we just do that? And that was back in the day. It was my company was called T3 Synergy. Then like three of us, trusted technology team, 3 of us working. Yeah,
that's
so
where
it started. Kind of the start of a business. All happened in Victoria.
Wow.
London, Victoria, on an iPad, registering a company.
Brilliant.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And then something pretty bad happened to me. That was we were trying for a baby at the time, and well, we already had one, but we're trying for another one. And I got a phone call, and I was just walking down Great Portland Street.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I got a call. And there was something in my wife's voice at the time. There's something bad, something really bad. And I straight away, I thought, something's happened to my son. So it's like, there's something bad's happened. I need to get home. There's something bad. And actually it wasn't my son, but we lost
James,
the baby that she was carrying at the time. So it was, but that was a moment where it said, that's the end of London.
Yeah. You need to be at home.
And I got on a train. And I went home. And that was the start of remote working. So I don't know if you remember back to that time, but if you hadn't got bums on seats, you weren't getting paid. That's just what it is. There's no remote work, and it didn't exist.
No, it really didn't. I remember like contracting in London, if you maybe got your 4 days on site and 1 day a week from home, that was a kind of good
You were
gig.
lucky if you got
the greatest
that.
thing in the world. And sometimes some of them were doing Mondays and Fridays from home, 3 days a week on site, and they were the absolute golden tickets that people were like, well, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But generally it was 5 days a week. You know, you're down here and you're on site and you work Monday to Friday on site and then on a project, and that was that, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I just point blank refused and said, I'll be down 3 days every 2 weeks. And that didn't go down very well. But I then educated about it's actually what we do, and it's about what we're actually capable of, as opposed to being on site, bums on seats. And it worked. And so I was exchanging people. We had a few people on site, and I was working up, supporting my wife at the time. And yeah, it kind of decided that actually, if I've got an office and I've got people working down in London, this is the time to change the name. So went from this 3 of us, T3 Synergy, to we must give it a name where I'm not the person that you're working with anymore. It's the company you're working with. And then we've changed it to AgileCadence. And AgileCadence came at the time from agile methodologies, cadence, constantly the DevOps deployments thing. So it's agile and cadence.
Right. Okay.
I was like, oh, it's amazing. Like how is no one ever coming up with these things before? And then ever since that day, everyone's, what is that name? Anyway.
But it means something to you, and it meant something to you. And I think that's always what's important. It's like, in your mind, and when you were going through it, well, it made perfect sense. And, people being inquisitive about it, they won't forget the name. That's the other side to it. You'll always be remembered.
Yeah, so that was it. So we started with AgileCadence, and I had a wobble because everyone in the industry was telling me, the people who were leading the companies were saying, you don't build your back office, get bums on seats, sell, because that's how you make money. Otherwise, you're going to go bust.
Right.
And someone handed me this book.
Yeah.
And that's been the most important book to me, probably until maybe the last year.
Yeah.
Which was It Can Be Done, and it was done at scale.
Yeah.
So stick to your guns and build the back office. Make sure you look after the staff.
Yeah.
Make sure I get some looking after too.
Yeah.
And build from there.
Yeah.
And that's really gone from strength to strength. And every single person that joins the company now receives that book with a little note on our values card, which I've also got here.
Yeah.
So just to let people know, because those values came from a really bad period of time where we got someone that wasn't great in the business.
Yeah.
We had a choice. You go for money, or you go for values. And we chose values. And that's what really formed the values for us, which is why we don't just say it, we genuinely live by it, because it's helped us make so many decisions. But even when you think about bad people that have been in the business, we've never lost anything because of that. We've always gained something. So every single person, whether they're a good fit or a bad fit, has always brought something to the party. So even if it's the values that came out of it, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you wouldn't mind, James, it's taken me just on a little bit of a journey, but with kind of, you've given a sort of a bit of a synopsis there of sort of AgileCadence, but I'd love to know, in terms of, did you always have an idea in your mind? And I know from, talking earlier on in the conversation that we've had, I sensed, I guess, an entrepreneurialness to you, a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, in that, you were always quite minded in terms of what you wanted to do, even from those days at kind of, university, building the websites. You had that foresight. And then you go into AgileCadence, running your own business, a similar thing that I do at Catch. I run a business, I operate a business and employ people, and it's one of the things that I most enjoy about it, but it's also one of the things that I find is the biggest challenge, and you pointed on it there. But it's the people within your business and the culture you create, the values that you live, that you operate within. And we as a business, I've always been very much, just as a basic, as a human being, and I say it to my children, it's like, if you're always honest and you're always fair and you're always transparent, and you live by the sort of theory that you're a good person and you do good things will happen. You've always got to work hard, but those common values are really important. And I always try to instill that within the business. Do the right thing. Don't do the short-term thing. And that's something I've always prided ourselves on at Catch, in terms of, if we know someone hasn't got, or maybe an individual hasn't maybe got the greatest reputation for delivering a certain skill set, but they could try and push themselves as they do, we won't represent candidates like that, because you live and die by your reputation. For you, James, at AgileCadence, you've gone on that journey where you are today. But some of the biggest challenges you faced, how you've overcome those challenges, and just, if you wouldn't mind just dipping into a little bit more just about your values there, and just explain a little bit more about what AgileCadence is and what it means to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any investors. This business is it's 100% mine.
Yeah.
So therefore, it means this is my house.
Yeah.
And my front door is something that I can paint. I can make it whatever it wants to be. And because I have that control, I can choose to let it run away and just be whatever it can be, or I can choose to control the narrative of the business. And what I chose was people through and through. I mean, I love people. I think relationships, people, they're just, why would you not want that in your life? So yeah, it can be difficult, and we've all been in difficult conversations, and consultancy is hard, and customers is sometimes hard, but it's not just hard because they're not great people. It's hard because there's probably some other stuff going on that's making their lives really hard. And it's just been, well, our values are transparent. So absolutely, obviously commercially transparent. But yeah, open up to people, actually talk to them, build relationships, build trust. And with that, the authenticity, which is one of our other ones, so transparent, authentic, and generous, just because that's me. And I'll always be generous, but be generous with, not financially necessarily, but generous with you knowledge. One of the things I learned at the early consultancies was people's wealth was defined by the knowledge they held personally. I say it's the other way around. Your value is the value you can spread as far as you possibly can make it go. You're more valuable to me in the business the more you can enable and make capable other people, customers, colleagues. So the person that tries to hold everything close doesn't work at AgileCadence, and that's it. That's enough. And we've got fun in there because actually it's pretty tough, the industry, but we are all human. So let's have a bit of fun together. And fun doesn't necessarily mean what it used to mean, which is work hard, play hard. It can just be actually having a bit of a laugh with each other and just going back down to the fact we're all human. And then empathetic, because you are dealing, again, I keep using this word human, but you're dealing with people. So if you can't read a room, first of all, that's going to be a problem for consultancy. But if you can't read a room and you can't look after people without them having to say a single word, then to me, that's a problem. So like, be emotionally intelligent, be empathetic, and hopefully that's built in without you having to try. But if you do have to try, be those things. And then just be exceptional in everything you do. Never let yourself down. Always give the very, very best you've got. And when that customer really needs help, be exceptional. We've really lived by that. And we can always go back to that now, and we build it into everything we say, all the project work we do. If there's a new opportunity that comes which doesn't feel quite right, we go back to them and say, do we feel as though this would go against the values that we hold? And we've let a couple of customers go over time just because of that. Not everyone holds those values.
No, they don't. Well, and it's something you see, don't you? Because there's, and it's never as a truer word said, that there's good business and there's bad business. And what's good business for one organization can be different for another. But alignment in 100%. Terms of, if you're going to go into, I call it partnership, but if you're going to support an organization through that, transformational systems change process, you've got to be aligned to a certain extent with those sort of key stakeholders that you're dealing with from a human point of view. If the personality characteristics are totally different and you're sat there thinking, I'm going to have to work with this person for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, however long, could be for forever, with systems improvement work. But if there isn't that sort of personality alignment, then it's going to be very difficult to work with that organization. And you're always going to be slightly on the back foot and thinking, should we or shouldn't we have taken on that piece of work? And then I guess the Microsoft landscape is changing, evolving. The world that we live in from a technology standpoint, James, is evolving and changing like it hasn't done for a long time in terms of the advances with AI, how that's changing the way organizations work, how that's now becoming part of the Microsoft Dynamics system, the Microsoft stack, etc. How does that, for you at AgileCadence, the evolution of what you do there and the evolvement of technology, what benefits does it provide you? What challenges does it provide you? The conversations you're having with clients, have you noticed those changing quite significantly over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, I guess?
I would say that they are changing, but not at the speed that social media suggests. So absolutely things are changing, but there's there's either fear
Yeah.
from not necessarily from myself,
Yeah.
but there's fear in the market. So your maybe the CTOs of the business will say, we are not doing AI and building a castle.
Yep.
There's individuals who are absolutely fine, and therefore social media, you'll see a lot of stuff and it proposes to be company, but it's probably individual. And then you have the company piece, which is going slower and more stably. And I think that's where we are at the moment. We're starting to move into that piece where the owners of companies know they need to do something, but they're not 100% sure what they need to do, apart from we need to go and buy a ton of licenses. And it's happening, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
So I believe, so this is me getting to the AI chat now. So the other book that was the most important one was this one. So
have a look at that. Yeah, The Coming Wave.
Yeah, so the guy that runs AI for Microsoft.
Okay.
This is coming 100%. Like you know it is, because actually if you do look at social media, all you'll know about is Claude and various other technologies that people are doing it, and it's moving fast. But at the moment, companies are thinking of using AI as a faster typewriter, as a great search engine, a fast search engine, which then turns things into documents as a fast typewriter. So we've got individual capability at speed, which is way better than we used to have.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not really adding value. It's adding the potential for value, but it's not necessarily adding the value. But what the companies are seeing is as a danger, because what I could get 10 people to do over a month, I could potentially, if it's document based, I can now possibly get one person to do it in a few days.
Absolutely.
So if I want to save money, what am I going to do? I'm going to get rid of headcount. And unfortunately, that's what we're starting to see in the industry is we're starting to cut headcount. But I say no, because this is another one of those situations where I want to be on the right side of the bar again. My core is about people, 100%. You're saying about that human piece. The best thing that we have in business is relationship.
Absolutely.
And relationship is not AI.
Nope.
So the best thing that we can do is be the very, very best people that we can be, and to look after each other. AI gives us a capability we've never had before, but it isn't the faster typewriter. And I think that's the thing that people are trying to figure out at the moment is what is this? So we can do things way quicker. We can develop things really quickly. Microsoft are pushing Copilot like it's going out of business, or it might do. I shouldn't say that.
No.
Sorry, Microsoft. But even Microsoft are realizing that they got it wrong. So Microsoft are now saying, we built the faster typewriter. That was the wrong route to take. We need to start looking at, so it's Copilot Co-work, which is just basically a rebranding of the Claude Co-work. But that's a better route. So we're starting to think of things as actually enabling you to step away from your machine, allow things to happen, but not to reduce headcount, to allow you to stand up and to grow. So I say, if you've got a company of 1,000 people, don't make 500 of them redundant because you can do their work with AI. Be the best company in the entire industry by 10 timesing every single person that you have, because the quality that you've got there, release the cognitive load. I call it that's not a very human thing, but the cognitive load that every single person has every day. If you can get rid of that, then you've got a great workforce. So behind me, there's a best workplace thing. So we got the great place to work award. And when I was there, I thought, if I want to come back next year, we need to do something. Because I want to bring back the entirety next year. And I want them all to be saying, this is the best place to work.
Brilliant.
But when you write a document or an email and you use AI, and you've written it, and everyone has, so you've got this faster typewriter, you then send it. The person at the other end either does or does not have AI. If they don't have AI, they've got to read the thing and work through it. It takes them some time, and then they'll send you back a response.
Absolutely.
If they do have AI, they'll strip it, put it into AI, say, write a response, and it goes back the other way. You're now in an AI to AI loop. Now we've got a problem, because if we're in an AI to AI loop and it's the early part of 2026, what's it going to be like
evolve
at the end of 2026? Because at the end of 2026, if we're doing it already, we're just batting stuff backwards and forwards. And where's the value? The value's gone. As consultants or anyone in professional services businesses who's relying on people, what we need to do is we need to add that value on top of everything we do. It's there, it's not going away.
Yeah.
But the conversation I'm having with you now and to all the people out there, AI could do it with an avatar, but it wouldn't be the same.
No.
So this is stuff which, as human beings, we have as a company owner, I have a responsibility to make sure that not only my own team, but other people out there in professional services have the ability to grow on the top of AI.
Okay.
So you've got the horse, get on it, ride it. Don't let the horse run away. You know, I said earlier on about there's some customers that you do want to work with and some customers that you don't. That will still be the case. Some customers will actually just want to do tech. But the people who don't want to do that, the ones I actually really want to work with, it's brilliant. We can still sit around a table and we can still do all that stuff. But actually the quality and the capability and everything we do just like tenfolded. Someone
mentioned something to me the other day about AI, and I thought it was sort of fascinating, but it was just like AI can allow humans to build better and deeper relationships with their customers because it gives them more time to spend dealing with people. Like the AI can do the admin and some of the bits and pieces that, you know, you can save those kinds, but it should allow good organizations and people to spend more time doing the best bit, which is building relationships and speaking to customers and meeting customers, because you've got more time. Because some of that paperwork that you maybe had to do that took you 2 days, you can now do that much quicker. So then you can get out and meet your customers in the afternoon as opposed to 3 days later.
100%. And that's it in a nutshell. So the problem we've got though is that AI is still an individual task. So you will tell me about the customer's details from these 10 files that I've got in SharePoint. Brilliant. Oh, it just told me like in a short form exactly what I need to know. Great. You ask it the next time, it'll give you a completely different answer.
Right.
Because it's unstructured.
Understood.
So you're just fast a search engine again. So what you need to start to do is to build systems which will return you the same answer time and time again, and then grow that capability, which is what I've built for AgileCadence, and it's what we'll be sitting on from here on in is an AI knowledge system, but it's an AI system which sits behind everything and gives the guys in the company the capability to. There's no more onboarding. There's no more handover to managed service. None of this exists because all the knowledge and the capability is there. And if you ask a question, it returns the same thing every time. I'm going to release this to the team soon, but it's my moment of being back in the day when it was DevOps. And it's the logic gates that you go through. AI is just a logic gate. That's all it is. It's something that says, if you tell me what to do, I will respond and give you back something which you probably couldn't be bothered to do because you just didn't have the time. But now you do have the time. And if I can do that, then I can do exactly what you were talking about, which is building these relationships back. We create a better world, not a worse world.
No, I love that, James. That really, I mean, it resonates so much with me because it's just alignment in terms of sort of thinking and the way we do things. And like you said, there will be organizations out there that will they will go the other way, and that's the way they want to go, and that's their prerogative, and that's absolutely fine. And I'm mindful, James, I've taken up sort of an hour of your time already, and I'm really grateful for your time. But just I'd love for you to sort of leave me with a little bit just about just before you go, sort of future of AgileCadence, where you see yourself, and and I guess a little bit just in terms of, I always like to ask people, you know, if you're dealing with a customer today or a friend of yours or a CFO or a CIO that from an organization that you worked with 10 years ago knocks on your door and says, hey James, we're looking to looking to update our systems. We're on systems are creaking a bit. We're running out of support. Looking at D365 FinOps and implementing that. Just a little bit of advice that you might sort of give that person before they go on that journey.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll leave you with a few things then. So first of all, let's in a few years' time look back and say, in hindsight. So I'll tell you now, we're on the start of the AI bubble. So I think we're going to see this going like the .com stuff did, like the Bitcoin stuff did. I think that's exactly where we are. 2026, kind of year one.
Yeah.
Where I think the company's going to be in the future are significant but safe.
Yep.
So it grows at the speed it can grow, but it stops as soon as we start to break the values. So not massive growth quickly.
Sustainable.
We go gradually, sustainable, look after people, good, safe place to work. Always that.
Yeah.
A good place for customers to be.
Brilliant.
Yeah, if it implemented systems, so it's changing. It's definitely changing. So what do you choose? You choose the thing that fits best for you.
Yeah.
You pick the thing that you can secure. So like Microsoft is selling security like it's going out of business, but you know what? It is important. It's super important because the AI coming wave, AI does not sleep. It doesn't care. It finds things out. So you be secure. So whatever system you're going to put in place, care about your data, care about security. In terms of dynamics, well, it's done me well for my entire life. There were other options. The grass isn't always greener somewhere else. So like pick your system and go with it. And actually Dynamics is a fantastic system. It has its quirks, but so does everything else. Delivery is a day-by-day improvement of the custom systems.
Yeah.
And if you think of it as a rent to get paid, you probably failed already. But if you think of it as an improvement, you'll get paid.
Yeah.
That's an outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
but make sure the customers are looked after.
Brilliant. James, I'm very grateful for your time today. It's been really interesting talking to you, hearing about sort of on a personal level, that journey from sort of early days, university, first jobs, designing websites through right to the wonderful business that you've built today at AgileCadence and what the future holds. It's an exciting time. I think you can always look at these times with trepidation or fear, or you can look at it with some enthusiasm and excitement, and you can embrace change. And I think it's really important that, for people that want to embrace the change and go with it, the right way, I think there's opportunity there. There always is. So, thank you very much for your time, James. I've really enjoyed talking to you today and really appreciated you spending the time with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Always be on the right side of the bar. That's the one.
Love it. Thank you, James. Thank you for listening to the Catch Up podcast today. Please make sure to subscribe on the audio platform of your choice or head over to YouTube to watch the video version.